evening. Planning and Zoning Commission, Wednesday, February 10th, 2021 is called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the Secretary please note the roll?
I'm not on. Okay. Will the Secretary please note the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Clymer is present. Commissioner Steiner is present. Commissioner Ellison is present. Commissioner Maloney is present. Vice Chairman Barnes is present. Commissioner Kish is absent. Chairman Bray is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, I'll accept a motion to excuse those members that could not be here today.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we excuse Jason Kish, Commissioner Jason Kish, and Commissioner Patrick Bray from the meeting.
Second.
It has been properly moved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Item 1 on the agenda is to approve the draft minutes of the previous Planning Commission of January 13th. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the draft minutes from the January 13th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
It has been properly moved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the Planning Commission on any non-agenda items. Do we have any speaker cards? Nobody wants to address on any non-agenda items. No one ever wants to address on non-agenda items. Very good. One day, 3 years, one day somebody's going to come up and want to talk about a non-agenda item. Very good. We'll move on to disclosure of ex parte communications. This is an opportunity for commission members to disclose any communications they've had prior to this meeting regarding any item on the agenda. Anyone?
No.
Anyone have secret discussions? No. Good. Very well. We'll move on to the second item, public hearings. Do I open the, now I open the public hearing. And we will begin with Karen presenting our first item. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. The Ballpark Village PAD amendment. As most of you know, Ballpark Village and Ballpark Village South are located on the east side of Estrella Parkway. Obviously, Ballpark Village is this area right around the ballpark. Ballpark Village South is this area down here. It goes from just above Goodyear Boulevard down to where Bullard Avenue intersects with Estrella Parkway. In 2017, a corporation called Community Southwest processed an amendment to the PAD for Ballpark Village South to change the approved land uses in this area from business office park to single and multifamily residential. And it had 3 density ranges, 8 to 30 in this area, 6 to 15 in this area, and 5 to 10 in this area. And the idea was that there was going to be this mix of housing products within Ballpark Village South, kind of cool, hip, and trendy for the time and compared to what else was existing in the city or approved in the city. Unfortunately, they didn't build any of this and then proceeded to sell the property to others. But development has begun out here in Ballpark Village South. This is the clubhouse that was built for the Cleveland Indians. It's right across Wood Boulevard from the Indians Development Complex. This is a project that has gone through site plan approval and it has been permitted. Solace at Ballpark Village, we've gotten all the developers here to do their projects, brand them as at Ballpark Village, so we can tie them all together. This is the main building that will sit right on Estrella Parkway. And then there are maybe a half a dozen other buildings, 3-story buildings that will be located kind of behind and to the south of this building. And this will be on the most northern part of Ballpark Village South. The next southern, or the middle part of Ballpark Village South, just south of Solace, will be Rev at Ballpark Village. And it will be a single-story rental community. Also, they have had permits issued for this, and they have 1-unit buildings as well as duplex buildings. And then for the southernmost part of Ballpark Village South, we have had a pre-application meeting for pros at Ballpark Village. And that meeting was with Alliance Residential and El Dorado Holdings, who own the property on which Alliance wishes to develop. And this is what we started out with for the pre-app submittal. And this is where we've gotten to. They've been very cooperative in making changes to the elevations that we feel will be more in keeping with the other developments and most importantly with the design guidelines for Ballpark Village. I just heard tonight that Alliance has submitted their site plan application so that we can continue to work with them on their elevations and on their site plan for the project. And we're very happy to hear that. But as you might imagine, a multi-story, multi-family project like this requires more density than that southern part of Ballpark Village currently allows within the PAD. That was in the portion of the PAD that had a density range of only 5 to 10 dwelling units. So hence, this PAD amendment has been submitted by El Dorado Holdings, the property owner. And so this is the 2017 multifamily development standards. And as you can see, here are those 3 ranges. So the amendment is proposing that all 3 have the 5 to 30. So they just kind of took the lowest number and the highest number and distributed it across all of the property. And then as a housekeeping measure, while this process was going through, the city wanted to clean up the maximum height in these designated areas. The 75 came about at one point in time, even before Community Southwest was involved in the property, when this area was Ballpark Village and Wood Corporate Campus, and Wood Corporate Campus thought that we were going to have 75-foot tall office buildings on the property, and obviously that didn't happen either. And we really staff should have cleaned this up when we did the 2017 amendment for Community Southwest, but we didn't. So we'd like to do that at this time and just have all the maximum building heights be at 55. We feel that's much more practical for multi-story residential developments. Okay. There are 4 other private property owners within the PAD, and then the city, of course, owns property as well. 2 of the property owners within Ballpark Village are supportive of this particular amendment. The other 2 that own property within Ballpark Village South do not support it. And I would, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, like to read the emails that I got from them into the record.
Please do.
Thank you. The first one is from the owner of the property on which Solace is going to be developed, the first multi-story one that I showed you. And they say, unfortunately, we cannot support this amendment. We made our investment based on the very new area plan and densities put forth at that time. Supporting this amendment devalues our project and introduces an influx of new supply to an already robust pipeline of multifamily development. We understand the need for more housing in the area, but feel that the current densities allow for that in a more equitable way. The second one is the owner of the property on which the Indians, the clubhouse residential development was done. After talking with Ryan, the owner who wrote the other email, we see the same concerns and at this time cannot provide our support. I think it's important the master plan has time to develop and feel it's still too early to provide a change from 2017. And then we also got one email or a pair of emails from one property owner outside of the PAD who simply does not support multifamily development. In terms of the owners within the PAD who do not support the amendment, you still, as a commission, have the ability to go ahead and recommend approval if you choose to. But we just wanted to make you aware, for clarity's sake, that two of the property owners do not support it. And staff ourselves, we support the increased density. We believe that by having more people living in this area, then perhaps some of the restaurant and entertainment and retail uses that we're all hoping for up around the ballpark might be more likely to come. So we're in support of the change. And of course, we're in support of doing the housekeeping measure on the maximum height. The request that was put forth meets all the zoning ordinance criteria for a rezone, and therefore we are recommending approval of the amendment subject to the stipulations in your staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Karen? Yes.
I do. Karen, in the beginning, when we first looked at this project, the project was supposed to be like an urban community with like townhouses, restaurants, parks. And so now you're saying that that is no longer the case and they want to build these high-rise apartments. They're all rentals. These are not condos, correct?
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Commissioner, yes, they are all rentals, as were some of the, and I'll take it, I think what you're referring to is
Right.
this. Yeah, some of this was going to be ownership, some of it was going to be condos, some of it was also going to be rentals.
Right. But the concept has changed.
The concept has changed, and I think Community Southwest put this forth to the city as a viable option for the development of this property. And we were happy to hope for that ourselves. But, you know, that was 4 years ago, and nothing happened on it. Nobody came along and said, yeah, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to build. They themselves then sold the property. Community Southwest sold the property to others. And as I said, we're anxious to have development occur here. We're anxious to have people here. We're hoping that that will get us some other things that we want around the ballpark. And you know, the two projects that we've worked with so far, Solace and Rev, they've been very cooperative in everything we've asked them to do in order to meet the design guidelines, in order to provide both open space recreation activities for the residents as well as private recreation space. So you're right, it's not what we originally thought, but we're optimistic about it and grateful for the cooperation that we're getting from the development community.
Now, that Solstice project down below, it looks like it might be shops or dining, and then the apartments or condos, whatever they are, that.
Doesn't it look like
Retail,
that?
it
Doesn't
does look like that.
It does look like that, and I'm sorry to say that isn't retail down there, but that was the idea, to create what looks like retail, what looked like a mixed-use building, and have that right up against Estrella Parkway. There's no parking in between it and Estrella Parkway, so it's got a very nice presence on Estrella Parkway. So thank you. I'm glad to hear you think it, even though it may not be, it looks like it.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Originally, we were going to mix restaurant and entertainment into this area.
Mr.
4
Chairman,
years ago, 5 years ago, whatever.
the restaurant and entertainment was going to be up around the ballpark.
Okay, fine.
This area was going to be all residential. But like I said, the hope is the more people live in there, maybe the other will occur at the ballpark.
Okay, so the south is going to be all residential,
Yes.
mixed residential?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kish?
Thank you, Chairman. So we're changing it from single-family residential to multifamily residential. I just want to sum up what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kish, no, that change had been made the change that had been made in 2017 by Community Southwest took the approved land uses from business park and office to a mix of, it could have been single family and it could have been multifamily. Okay. As it turns out, it is all multifamily. We consider those single-story rentals, even though they're only one unit typically, or a duplex. We consider that a multifamily project.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. So, do you have a rough idea, at least, of the total unit count? Is this a wash, is my question? We're going from some high-rise and mid and low to basically all mid-rise. Are we at roughly the same unit count, or are we lower?
Mr. Chairman, no, by creating the density range of 5 to 30 units across the board for Ballpark Village South, it allows the third area, the one where Alliance would like to develop quite a few more units than would have been allowed originally. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact numbers for you of the total, but it's actually creating an allowance for more density overall.
I thought I saw not quite a high-rise, but a pretty high-density use on one of those categories on the PAD. Did I misunderstand? Where you had the three categories showing what it is now. Okay. So the density
Had been 5 to 10, and 6 to 15, and 8 to 30. Now they're all going 5 up to 30.
Okay. So overall, we do get a higher density. And the two emails, did you say those were from adjacent property owners, or do they own property within this
The
area?
two that I read to you, one was the property owner where Solace will be developed, the building that, in the project with the building that looks like mixed use. And the other one was the property owner where the clubhouse for the Cleveland Indians was built.
Was already built?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions for staff, Commissioner Kish?
One more, thank you. What was, besides the reasoning of there's a competing interest, is what I'm hearing from the email? Can I go a little I just want to go into that a little bit more with what exactly are we competing with?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Commissioner Kish, from my conversations with them, I also had conversations with them besides receiving the emails. They felt that when they approached Community Southwest about purchasing some property to do development here, that at the time, the only high-density part, the original 8 to 30, was in the northernmost part of Ballpark Village South.
Okay.
So they felt that was their only option. This is where we have to buy in Community Southwest. And again, this is what they are telling me, the current property owners are telling me, was that if you want high density, this is where you got to buy. And well, we're going to charge you a premium for it. And there's nothing else we can do about the densities, about the lower densities. Now,
It was like a bait and switch. Do they feel like
Well,
this was done? I'm just trying to. better understand.
they were led to believe, they believed from what they were told that the only high density property was in the north part. And so that's what they bought and that's what they paid for. And so now that the possibility exists that there can be higher densities in the south part as well, they feel that that kind of devalues their property and creates a competition for them as well.
Thank you for explaining that.
So that area to the north, was that the 8 to 30 range? Said the 75
Yes,
foot?
yes.
So they bought there, and that was the only 8 to 30 range,
the
was that
time,
north
right.
section, and they bought it. And now it's, so are they complaining that it's being reduced, or is their complaint that now the whole thing, other people are getting higher densities?
Their complaint is they feel it devalues their property and it creates competition that they previously did not have in terms of density.
I guess we should ask those questions of the property owner if they're here. Any more questions for Karen? No? Do we have any speaker cards on this one? Not at all. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak on this item? Actually, I got to back up. I have to ask the applicant if they would like to address the commission.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brendan Ray, 1850 North Central, with Birch and Crackhill, here on behalf of Alliance Residential. I have a very robust presentation that I'm more than happy to make tonight, or I can simply stand here and answer questions. But before doing so, I would like to say that we are grateful for staff. We've worked closely with them on this PAD amendment and on the subsequent site plan application that was filed today in terms of elevations and layout and stuff like that. Karen did a thorough job in her staff report and her presentation that I don't want to unnecessarily waste the commission's time, yet I want to be respectful that if you'd like me to make a full presentation, I'm more than happy to, or I can simply stand here and answer your questions. I will defer to this group.
It's your choice. You have 10 minutes and whatever you choose to do. I don't want to impinge on your ability to address the commission, but do we have any questions? We could start with questions. Do we have any questions for the applicant, Commissioner?
Just a suggestion, you heard the questions we had. Was there anything that piqued your interest about what you could respond to those queries?
Yes, I can, and probably from a little historical perspective, provided additional more insight. And I don't know, Karen, if you can just pull up, I think, the third slide on my presentation, if that's possible.
Oops. Sorry. This one?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a great place to start. So just to put it in context, in our office, actually represented Community Southwest on this 2017 approval. We worked closely with Karen at the time on behalf of Community Southwest to develop this amendment to the plan. And as Karen indicated, a lot of the focus was residential on the south, at Ballpark Village South, those brown and yellow colors. And then having a lot of the mixed use, the commercial, the shops, all of that stuff on the north side of Ballpark Village. And so at the time, Community Southwest and in discussions with staff as we focused on the southern property, it was our best guess as to what that property could develop. The conceptual plans that Karen included in her plan were just that. They were conceptual, and if you were to read the details of that old PAD, it says this is our best guess for the time as to potentially, this is one of a million ways in which those residential properties could develop at the time. And so it wasn't known with substantial certainty or detail as to how those properties would develop. We know that it's one of the things that the city, at least in the discussions that I've been involved in, as it relates to this area, have encouraged additional density to provide, and I use this pun intentionally, fans in the stand, not only to support the ballpark efforts, but to support and provide the necessary people in the area for the development of Ballpark Village on the north. And so we see this as a complementary use to the area. And in terms of this change in the densities, we think it's appropriate and provides that support, the additional people in the area to help that vision continue to come to pass as it relates to the stuff up on the north. As Karen indicated, you know, competition is I mean, that's what America is about in terms of competition and you know, challenging and making things better. You know, the Community Southwest sold the property to Eldorado Holdings. Eldorado has developed, they're the ones that are developing the REV development that's north. They encompass that, what I'll call a mustard area, the Res 2 area. And then the Alliance development, the proposed Alliance development is further south of that. It takes up most of Res 1, creeps in a little bit to Res 2, but, you know, times change, plans change, and we think that this is a good thing. Staff's been very supportive of us as we've gone through and have really pressed us from an architectural design standpoint, and I could show you some more pictures if you wanted to see it, but push us to ensure that the quality, the expectation, the vision for this area continues to be met.
Can I,
Commissioner?
thank you, Chairman. Can I move, Karen, may I ask one more question? Which of those red spots will turn into what we're discussing today in the north? I just wanted to just confirm. Around the public facility in the north. Mixed 1, mixed 2, will any of that change, or is that all going to remain the same?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Commissioner, that all remains the same.
That all remains the same?
That all remains the same, yes.
Which color is changed? Are we discussing tonight of these?
The brown, the mustard, and the yellow.
Brown, the mustard, and the yellow. Thank you. Okay, that helps me.
Commissioner?
I have a question. For these high-rise apartments, do you feel that they're going to be seasonal? The occupants are going to be seasonal?
Through the chair, Commissioner, no, that's not our intention. Alliance is, I mean, these are market rate apartments. The way they're building them and the way they're designing, it's for continuous occupancy, not to have what we affectionately refer to as snowbirds come in and live, you know, for periodic times of the year. Their plan is that it would operate as a traditional multifamily development with the traditional types of tenants that you would normally expect to see.
Any further? Mr. Steiner?
The brown hashed area, that's currently where the Indians have their facility?
Through the chair, that is correct. Their facility, and Karen can probably point quicker than I can, but it's in the northeast corner of that area. Yep, right there.
Okay. Is that your question? So that brown striped area, that's the area that had the highest density, or currently has the highest density.
Right,
And
that's
it's,
approved.
and it's also the area that one of the property owners is opposed to this change. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. But they did,
Both of them, actually, both of them. The
they
Indians
both
and
own
Salas,
property in
yes.
that area? Undeveloped property, or is it?
Indians, the clubhouse is there, has been there for 3 years, maybe, 2 years, maybe. And Solace is I think maybe beginning site construction already. They have permits issued, but I believe they're already out there doing site work.
So they did not list as their reason the fact that the density was going to become lower than it was when they purchased the property? That would be a concern to me if I was the property owner and the city was going to lower my density after I purchased it, then I might be upset. But it doesn't sound like that was their complaint.
Well, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry if I was unclear, their density isn't lowering.
Okay.
What
That's
is the
not-
They had
density?
the highest, they had up to 30 dwelling units per acre in the existing approved PAD. They will have up to 30 dwelling units per acre in the amended PAD if approved.
Okay. So only their height changes?
Yeah.
Or their
Yeah,
maximum height?
and the 55 feet that we put in there, we thought could be 4 stories.
Mhm.
But that one building, the one that looks like the mixed-use building on Estrella Parkway, that doesn't even go up as high as 55 feet. So that's well within the new development standards range, or fits within the new development standard range. And the single-story rentals, obviously single-story, and the 3-story that Pros is proposing will be well below the 55. But just for what seemed like a reasonable 4-story project, if it came along, it could fit within that 55 feet. So that was kind of a rationale on our part in terms of what we chose as the height.
So with this change in density, does it change the area around the Indians facility also, so they will be tied into a different density?
If I may, Karen, would you please go down 2 slides?
Just call me Vanna.
Actually, sorry, go one more, if you can go one more. I
Oh,
apologize.
now you're pressing it.
I know, I'm sorry. One more. There we go, perfect. I think this can help kind of illustrate, it puts into context so you can see where the development standards apply to what it is that we're talking about. And specifically, if I start on the north, where the Indians housing is and the Solace development, that is that far right-hand category, that Res 3. You can see that with respect to those changes, there's no changes that are being made to the density there, the maximum amount of density. 30 units is what they could have had before. It's what they can get now. The Rev development that Karen was talking about, that is on that mustard Res 2. That's the middle column. That Rev development, as Karen indicated in her staff report, that could be built today. In fact, its site plan's been approved, permits have been pulled under those current development categories. And so that had a density of 6 to 15. So the Rev development gets built today, whether this PAD amendment is processed or not. Really what we're focusing on is kind of that southern parcel, but to Karen's comment earlier, we're making it uniform across the board. So let's say 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, for whatever reason, Rev doesn't make it, or Solace doesn't make it, or whatever, and somebody wants to go in and redevelop it. They have the same capabilities, the same uniformity across all of this area to be able to build what it is that they want. And so, again, from our perspective, and I think staff agrees, this is a positive thing. We're not affecting kind of the heart and soul of the ballpark village, which is the stuff on the north. This is, if anything, an enhancement to that original 2017 approval to provide, again, additional fans in the stands to be able to support that and get the necessary density down here so that the commercial developers and those people on there will say, hey, look, we've got good demographics in the area. We want to move forward and build around that ballpark village.
Commissioner Ellison.
So, thank you. One point of clarification and one statement. So, I believe, I interpret the first email is that the developer of Solace, who purchased when there was a limited amount of real estate for high density, is upset because there's now more high density real estate available, and the price that he paid or they paid as a premium may not be as a premium now because there's more available. And I think that was the crux of the issue from what I heard in the email. That's my take, and you please correct me if I'm wrong.
That is how we took it as well.
Okay. The second thing that I'm not a fan of these apartments, but we all want restaurants. We all want entertainment zones. And unless we increase our density, we aren't going to get them. They aren't coming here. I talked to chefs in downtown. They are not going to come here without it. So it's a necessary evil, but that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further questions for the applicant? Any further statements you'd like to make before we open it up to the public?
We request your approval.
Thank you.
Or
Did I
recommendation.
remember to ask you to state your name and address? I'm supposed to do that at
He
the
did.
beginning. Did you do that? Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject one moment if I may? The properties that we're referring to in terms of being the Indians' property on this image is actually not owned by the Indians themselves or affiliated directly with the organization. It is a private development that has a relationship with the Indians organization where players may or stay or whatever the case may be. We're not necessarily privy to all of that, but it is, just for clarification purposes, I just don't want that to get confused. It is a privately owned project, not directly owned or affiliated with the Indians.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I think I asked already, were there any speakers cards? And you said no, and nobody wanted to come up and talk about this. Okay. Very good. I will move on to close the public hearing and ask for a motion on this item. Anyone?
Just a point of discussion, would that be a point?
Oh, that's right. I get to open it up for discussion to the commission first. Does anyone have anything to say to the rest of the commission?
When I first heard about the changes, I thought we were losing more than what we actually are. It seems like we're keeping things more similar than I had anticipated. We're going from residential to residential, or like a multi to multi, just different density, it seems. I thought they were losing the shops and the potential shops and those type of things, but it doesn't seem like that's happening as much as I first thought. So that's one point that makes me feel that this is not that, it's not a big leap. The second point, though, that I do worry about is if we have future visions for properties, what does that keep, do we just change that vision based upon someone else wanting to do something different with the property and we haven't had any other bites? So that would be my only concern. This isn't like a giant different use, so I'm feeling better about that. But my other concern is that if we have visions for areas and we have this really grand idea, does it behoove us to fight a little bit more for the idea, or does it, do we have to look at this and go, okay, it's not working, we should change it, change our vision? So those are my discussion points.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else wish to opine on this item?
I concur. I mean, my thing is, my fear is that that whole area down there is going to be one high-rise apartment after the other. And the concept, yes, we are all dying for some restaurants out here instead of chains. And, but I mean, that's what I'm petrified of, is that we're gonna have these huge areas. You know, we have these data centers, and that's getting people jobs. And I know people have to live there, but it's just, can we think of something clever to do with housing besides these high-rise apartments? And, you know, I personally would not want an apartment near a ball field. I mean, that's just me, but, you know, we're setting a precedent here. I mean, because this, if we do this, this is gonna be something that all these other developers are gonna say, well, you know, we've got some people in here, this is working. Or if it doesn't work, you know, that's my other concern.
Any more comments?
Across the street on Elwood and Estrella Parkway, I believe a month, 2 months ago, we passed a PAD for something at Ballpark Village, lots of housing. So you're already going to get a lot of housing right across the street. I would think that we would not want to compromise our vision that this should be an entertainment area, restaurants, entertainment, that type of thing, and just turn it into housing. You're already going to get that. With that housing, you may also get the entertainment and the restaurants that you're looking for around the ballpark, which is a perfect place for it. That's all I got to say.
Karen, can I come back to you and ask you, it didn't look like we were losing the ability for shops on the ground floors of these areas. Am I correct? Will they still be able to lease out the bottom floors as commercial?
Mr. Chairman, the one project, Solace, that appears to be a mixed-use project with commercial on the ground floor, that's actually where they're putting their community rooms, where they're putting their exercise rooms, where they're putting meeting rooms and offices and
So if
gathering spaces for the residents.
if a one-off restaurant comes along, the changes will not prevent them from putting some kind of a shop there. Am I right?
It doesn't have underlying commercial zoning,
There is none at this time.
not down here.
Okay. Commissioner Ellison.
I believe that the red area to the north was all where that was going to be, correct?
Okay.
So this
That is correct.
wasn't going to be the entertainment district. This was the housing district. The north part was where the entertainment and the restaurants were hoped to be.
That is correct.
And that's still going to be allowed.
Yeah.
Yes, that doesn't
Hopefully.
change with this amendment.
Does anyone wish to make a motion on this item? We're starting to sound like the city council.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve the PAD Amendment 2021000003 with stipulations.
Do we have, the stipulations are already attached to this, correct? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion still passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. We will move on to item number 3, a rezoning on Citrus and Van Buren. Mr. Williams is going to present to us. How are you? Oh, I get to open the public hearing. The floor is
Good
yours.
evening, Commissioner and Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm here before you this evening with a request from Taylor Earl to conduct a rezoning on a property within the city. The property is approximately 139 acres, and it is located at the southeast corner of Citrus Road and Van Buren Street. It is in the central part of our city, and it is west of Cotton Lane in an area that we commonly refer to as West Goodyear. The property is zoned PAD under the Rose Gardens Final Planned Area Development. And it is indicated on this map in this red box with the star in the middle. Zooming in a little closer, you can see that the project is west of the Oasis at Canyon Trails development. It is also north of that development. It's also north of a farm field on the left side that is owned by the city of Goodyear. It is also north of an charter school that's located on the southeast corner. And those portions of the property are not within the rezoning. It's also south of Cotton Lane RV Park and south of a vacant corner that is zoned C2. And across the road from it is county residential, largely large lot. For a brief history on the property, in 2008, the property was first zoned for a project called Rose Gardens. It included the entire quarter-square-mile section. The development plan called for a mix of single-family dwelling units configured on Z-lots, 60-foot wide lots, 65-foot wide lots, and 70-foot wide lots. And there was a commercial corner in the northwest section of the property. In addition, there was a zoning for a public facilities district here in the southwest portion of the property, and that is now owned by the city of Goodyear, and it is vacant today. On the southeast portion of the property, as you can see, a charter school has developed on that corner, and that did not require a rezoning. In contrast, what you'll see on the right side of the screen is the Silva Trails, which is the project before you today, and it calls for a gated community zoned R14 with R14 reduced standards. Those are provided in modifications of stipulation, and it provides for some lot diversity as well as a central amenity area right here in the middle. So a couple of highlights from the amenities, because as you're aware, in order to do R14 reduced lots, you need to meet some point thresholds. For amenities, the central community park will include a pool, a shaded children's water feature, and a bathroom facility. They will also provide an outdoor kitchen with 2 built-in gas barbecue grills, a built-in countertop sink, all underneath a shaded trellis structure. The central amenity area will also include a clubhouse with both indoor and outdoor lounge areas, meeting rooms, bathrooms, and a gathering space. There'll be a cornhole plaza with 4 cornhole courts and seating, and a shaded playground, lighted basketball court, shaded picnic tables with charcoal barbecue grills, and a large turf area for organic play. On the left, you will see the proposed layout of that central amenity area, and a visual of a similar community center the developer has built is pictured on the right side of the slide, and that is in the Archer Meadows development in Santan Valley. Today, the proposal before us in Silva Trails largely includes R14 reduced. The lot diversity is provided in this development through the use of a minimum percentage of lots and lot sizes. The typical R14 reduced development has 40-foot wide lots that are 100-foot deep, and that equals 4,000 square feet of lot. This development proposes a 45-foot wide lot with 120-foot depth, a 50-foot wide lot with 120-foot depth, and a 55-foot wide lot with 90-foot depth. The 50 by 90 lot is actually, the 55 by 90 foot lot is actually 950 square feet larger than the typical 40 by 100 that you would find in an R1 reduced development. The development is considered an infill as it is largely completing this square mile of that also contains Oasis at Canyon Trails. It also contains multiple schools and parks within this square mile, so we're considering this as an infill project. The development will create the first portion of the envisioned West Goodyear streetscape element that I'm about to tell you about. It will be a decomposed bridle trail on the east side of Citrus Road that is 8 foot wide and is immediately west of a 9 foot wide landscape strip. And it will have trees that are 20 foot on center, and they'll be shade trees. So you have a nice shaded bridle path along Citrus Road. The staff report does say 30, but I want to confirm right now that it is 25 feet for the trees. There will also be mid-block trails with view fencing along a portion of Citrus Road, and pedestrian access points from the community onto the bridle path and the 8 foot wide sidewalk. There'll also be trails that lead from that central amenity out into the perimeter of the community. Moving on to streetscape elements, there will be detached sidewalks that will be used when a 5-foot planter buffer can be provided for, and the HOA will maintain those planter strips to ensure that the plants, when they are damaged or diseased, that they are replaced efficiently. And in any home that has a 45-foot wide lot, they will feature paver driveways. The entrances into the community will also feature pavers or colored concrete in a combination with some very nice entry enhancements, and you can see some of those entry enhancements on these pictures here. Being that this is the first community on the north side of what the city is working to brand as West Goodyear Community, the development will feature a West Goodyear Gateway Monument. Effectively, this is the beginning of us trying to create a master plan feel for this section of Goodyear. We have asked all developers in this area of Goodyear to create West Goodyear entry monuments and or incorporate common theme elements in order to meet the streetscape element points. This developer has done just that. They will add a Silva Trails at West Goodyear sign on Citrus Road and Van Buren Street, include picket fencing and rail fencing along the bridle path and at monuments, and pedestrian gates and trail connection gates that feature trellis structures over them. And the entrances and sidewalks will be lined with shade trees into those developments. This developer really will begin to set the standard for the future of West Goodyear area of the city, creating a master plan feel for an area as opposed to it feeling like a dozen smaller neighborhoods that are disconnected. This area will feel like a character area of the city, similar to Canyon Trails or Estrella or Palm Valley, which all have their own unique master planned character and feel. And with that, staff has evaluated the impact of this proposed zoning to the greater community, and with no major concerns being found, staff recommends you forward an approval recommendation for rezoning this property from Rose Garden's final PAD to R14 with a R14 reduced standards within Silva Trails PAD overlay. That is provided through the stipulations, and I want to make some clarities. You do have a packet on your table. There have been some clarifications made to those stipulations since the time of the agenda. One of the major ones was ensuring that the minimum lot size is 4,950 square feet. There's clarity on the screen walls and amenities that are provided, and some additional flexibility provided for water line construction or wastewater line construction within West Goodyear, how that's either paid for or constructed. And with that, I'm here to take any questions, and if we do need the applicant, they are here, and I can have them come up if there's any questions for that. Okay.
Thank you, Christian. I will open the public hearing and ask if anyone has questions for Christian. Any questions? No one has questions?
You could off Eve is easy.
Commissioner Kish has a look on his face like
No,
he
I'm just
might have a question.
Wanted to read this wastewater section. So are we providing the cost of the wastewater plant here, or are they providing?
I will summarize this in a very non-engineering way.
Please.
West Goodyear was a lot of ag land. As you know, sewer flows downhill, the sewer plant's down by the river, and to get lines up this far north, a lot of the developers in the area have come to agreements on how they're going to extend the lines north and or pay for those lines downstream of them. So effectively, we are just clarifying some language on how the developer plans to either construct the lines or pay for the lines.
Perfect, thank you.
Any more questions for Christian? None? None? Very good. Would the applicant like to address the council? The applicant is in the very back of the room. One day we won't have to do this anymore.
Good evening. For your record, my name is Taylor Earl with Earl and Curley. Our address is 3101 North Central Avenue. Like Mr. Ray, I too have a presentation that I'm happy to not give, and it sounds like with the lack of questions, I will probably forego that. But really, really what Brendan said too, we had a great experience working with staff. Working through these points is a lot of back and forth and really kind of designing. You're really front-ending a lot of the design through the system that the city put in place. And we really laud the city for having a system whereby you're sort of have a menu of things. Hey, we know these things make great communities if you have to do this number of these things and this number of these things. And it's really turned into a really tremendous project, and it's fun to be able to deliver to you up front all the amenities and the bridle trail and all these different features that you're going to be able to have within this community. And so not only do we believe Meritage is a great builder that will do a terrific job, but we already now can present to you that the community itself is very well designed and will have an amenity package that is very, probably the best amenity package I've ever been involved with in terms of that central amenity area. So we're really excited about this.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I don't.
Anyone on this side? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any speaker cards? I'm going to say we don't have speaker cards. Very good. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. Okay. In that case, I will close the public hearing and request a motion. Actually, the motion comes before the discussion, so it says it right here on this page. So, can we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this action item.
Second.
Second. It has been properly moved. Is there any commission discussion on this item?
Nope.
No discussion. Very well. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much. Do you get to stay up here? Nope, we get Steve next. Very well, we'll move on to item number 4, and Steve will present to us. We get a medley tonight.
And then if you could open the
Floor
public hearing.
is yours.
Vice Chairman Barnes, if you could open the public hearing.
Did do I let him speak first, or I open the public hearing and then I let him speak? Very good. The hearing is open.
Chairman, Commissioner members, good evening. Do have a presentation for you tonight. For efficiency purposes, I do have the next 2 items for Citrus Park. One is a rezone, and the next item is a preliminary plat. I was hoping to do one presentation to cover both of those items, and the commission could take the separate actions as needed.
Oh, thank you. Please do. Is there any opposition among the commission?
Nope.
No, thank you.
So both of those items, the subject property is located about 3 miles south of I-10 along Citrus Road, maybe about 1.5 miles north of 85, within the West Goodyear area. Zooming in a little bit, subject property about 160 acres, again, southwest corner, Lower Buckeye and Citrus Road. Surrounding it, we have Las Brisas to the west and south. Wrapping around east, we have El Cedro, proposed Citrus Ritz and County development. Then a couple other West Goodyear developments with La Jolla Vista and Pradera. Again, the property is 160 acres. In the general plan, it's designated as neighborhoods, and that's intended for residential development, public community facilities, neighborhood-type commercial uses. Also, like the last project before the commission, it is in the West Goodyear area, and as noted by Christian, there were regional solutions for water and wastewater needed for this area. For the subject property, it looks like all of the regional water lines for the property are constructed. However, wastewater, there are some regional lines needed, so either the developer or another entity will need to construct those lines to provide wastewater service to the property. Property is zoned currently PAD. The name of the PAD was Levinson 160, and that was back in 2007. And that PAD did have 422 dwelling units, 357 single family, had some court homes, also had a commercial corner, about 27 acres right there at Lower Buckeye and Citrus. The request is to replace that PAD, and what the applicant would like to do would be to take about 114 acres, rezone that R14. The next 46 acres, zone that for court homes, for a total about 616 dwelling units. And that would be on 421 single-family lots, proposal for 45 and 55s, and then 195 court home lots, about 40 feet wide. Also with the R14, they'd like to reduce the side yards from the basic 5 and 10 to 5 and 5. And this is the proposed development plan. Again, here is Lower Buckeye Citrus Road. We'll have one main entrance here from Lower Buckeye, main collector come through the property. We'll have another entrance to Citrus, and then the collector road will continue south and connect into Las Brisas here. We've got 55s here, the 45s here, and then these are the court homes. And this is a example of what the court homes would look like. Basically a shared driveway, 6 units wrapping around that shared driveway. They would each have private yards here. This would be the front. It's here facing the public street. With the reduced lot widths requested with the R14 and the R1C, and also the reduced setbacks in the R14 zone portion, the development is required to incorporate certain design elements as set forth in the zoning code. And this table here shows the breakdown of how many elements, each of the design elements are required. And then here in the bullets, we looked at, these are the elements that the developer is providing to meet the 3 categories. And this is an overall plan for the development. There are parks and open space, and this shows a good example of some of the elements the developer will be providing. Main open space area park here, almost 6 acres, wide range of amenities, including a community pool, community restroom area. They'll have a regional trail through the power line easement, along with trails throughout the development. Open space proposed here is about 47 acres, almost double of what they're required to provide at 24. And this is a larger view of that main 6-acre park. They'll have some play areas, turfed play areas and fields. They'll have the community pool and restroom facility. There'll be parking provided for residents to access the pool. This is the power line easement, kind of goes right through the middle. And then you'll continue south and have some more play areas, play courts, tot lots. Some of the amenities and theming that they're providing, again, Citrus Park, some ag-themed type of amenities. They're actually providing at the main entrance citrus groves, and also along the collector, they'll also be providing citrus groves and formal type plantings, again, to foster that agricultural theme. For any rezoning, we're required to look at 10 evaluation criteria. These are the 10 criteria right here. And after conducting our staff review, we did look at the 10 criteria and what was provided in the application. We do find it complies with the criteria. The staff report goes over it in more detail, so I won't go over too many. I'll just highlight a few elements. We do find the residential development is consistent with the general plan neighborhoods. The property's natural features, its former ag land, that'll be suitable for residential development. The proposed development pattern, single-family development, will be compatible with the single-family development in the surrounding area. As talked about before, there's public infrastructure available. If not, it'll be installed or paid for by the developer. There's been no public opposition to this project, and we haven't identified any adverse fiscal impacts. Public participation, we did have completed all of the required notice as required by our codes for our citizen review and for the public hearing. To date, staff has not received any public inquiries on this project. So we are recommending approval of both the rezoning and a preliminary plat. Rezoning, again, complies with the valuation criteria set forth in the zoning code. Plat complies with the subdivision regulations and other land development codes. The approval is subject to the 41 steps noted in the draft ordinance for the rezone. Also, 25 steps noted from a preliminary plat as noted in the staff report for that application. One change, Mr. Chairman, to stipulation number 17 of the rezoning. It's a clarification. This is the language of the stipulation here. The additional language is underlined in bold. It just clarifies that the requirement for the porches applied only to the R14 district, which was intended, and that includes front porches or courtyards. Both options are acceptable, and the rest is standard language. With that, Mr. Chairman, staff's available for questions. The applicant is also available if the commission has questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Steve?
I have one.
Please.
Steve, could you go back to that very first slide where this is actually going to be happening? And this is part of, they call it West Goodyear? Is that what they call it? I've never heard of West Goodyear. So is this, where does West Goodyear start?
Mr. Chairman.
Where East Goodyear ends.
No, but is that cotton? Is that cotton?
Mr. Chairman, commission members, it is not a formally designated area. Staff, the commission and council, and maybe the commission member remembers 2 or 3 years ago, staff did kind of like an area plan for what we called at the time the West Goodyear area. And basically it could run from Cotton west over to Perryville, basically I-10 south, almost to 85 or the railroad.
Okay. No, I was just, I thought Goodyear ended at Cotton Lane. So I was just curious. Okay.
Do we have any, Commissioner Kish?
Where is this property, where does this fit with just the previous property we were just talking about? Where does that line up? That was at Citrus and Van Buren? So just south?
South and west.
Right.
So we're trying to have that congruity with the agriculture. And I do remember that meeting that we had, which discussed the plan for this area, which I think it's really cool concept. My other question is concerning that 616 units and the teeny weeny pool that's going in. I didn't know if that was ever a concern.
Good point.
I felt like it was a little bit,
Mr. Chairman, commission members, the applicant could maybe expand on that, but that's not, these are conceptual drawings. I'm sure they will size it as needed, but
the previous property had a bigger, more robust kind of like thing that was going in the middle, and that was, I think it was less property, so it was 400 units. Now we're adding 200 more units, and this doesn't look as impressive. So I just didn't know if this was a concern of
You wouldn't want
the
to share
city.
this with 600 people.
So was it a requirement that the previous applicant have such a large amenity versus this one? Was that optional?
I'm trying to.
So these can go up there and use
I'm trying to gauge like what type of amenities size-wise based on how many units are being put in, or if it's up to the feeling of the applicant, or is there a particular size that we'd like to see at such a huge 600 unit
Mr. Chairman,
project?
Mr. Chairman, commission members, we looked for a robust amenity package. Our code kind of gives us the ability to require certain amenities. The sizing, however, we do not have, at least in a zoning requirement, we do not have a minimum pool size established. So we leave that to the developer to provide a pool that will meet the needs of the residents and not be deficient. So there is a level of leaving that up to the discretion of the applicant, knowing that that's their expertise. The other project that Christian worked on, a developer can always go give us more than what maybe minimum code requires. So you see that with developments as you look across developments. Some will give more, some will give what is the requirement.
It's the market, Commissioner.
Sure. I just would hate to put in a little kiddie pool for 600 possible families versus up the road or down the road to get the gigantic. I'm tongue in cheek and have a little bit of that, but I'm just thinking it might be something that we look at as commissioners and also the city to say, okay, depending on how big the project is going to be, should we have some stipulations and some minimums on how big these amenities are going to be?
Well, I'm going to speak for the planning department. There is a code minimum that they have to meet, but beyond that, I guess it's like, I bought the truck with the button that remembers all my seat settings instead of the one that didn't.
Right. Yes, I understand that. Too.
This is the only pool in that property, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Community pool. Good.
You had to do it.
Okay. So residential can have their own pools.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I can interject just 1 second. Great discussion. Thank you for thinking of the future needs. I mean, that's why we're all here, to help with the developments move forward, but also think of the future needs of future residents. I would just like to caution about potentially creating requirements, minimum size requirements for pools and other amenities, because once we kind of do that, then we kind of start loosening, or excuse me, maybe reducing the opportunity for ingenuity and creativity. We'd much rather work with the development community, as Steve eloquently put it, on the overall package, as opposed to, oh, you're 1 square foot short on your pool.
I understand that.
And you know, because we don't want all of these projects in West Goodyear to be the same or to pick the same amenity package. And frankly, they probably want to choose something different, so there is some choices for people to make as well. So we do, I just want to caution us against going down that rabbit hole to start writing or asking us to write regulations on minimum size of pools. And then to Steve's point as well, the individual homes will still have the opportunity for their own private pools should they choose.
Any further questions from the council? No, thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak to the council? It's a 10-minute walk up to the podium. That eats up your presentation time, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. I'm Andrew Yancey with Bergen Frake, Smalley and Oberholzer. Our address is 4343 East Camelback Road in Phoenix. We represent Land Sea Homes, a home builder who has this rezoning request and the preliminary plat before you tonight. Definitely excited to get building and put some homes on this vacant infill property that can add some diversity to the West Goodyear area. Of course, Steve's staff reports and presentation were incredibly thorough, and like the folks who are up here before me, I do have slides, but happy to defer to Steve's presentation there and answer any questions you have. We certainly appreciate the recommendation of approval. As you can see, we have no opposition. I will certainly address the amenities discussion that was carried on here previously. The amenities and the open space is part of the project, but is also part of these design requirements to get the reduced R14 zoning and the R1C zoning district. And we have a robust amenity package. This park that you're seeing up here with the pool, that is a 6-acre park, a central park. There are 3 additional community parks spread around the property. 3 total play structures, pickleball courts, half basketball courts, cornhole, shaded ramada, barbecue grills, all spread throughout the property. And we have a total of, as Steve mentioned, about double the requirement for open space overall. The pool itself was something we discussed with staff, and the pool that is shown, it is not to scale. It is going to be designed, once we're further along in that process to make sure it is, appropriate for the community. And there was also a point about homeowners being able to have pools in their backyard. Just one point I'd like to add on to that is that all the lots in this community have an extended depth over and above what is required by code. That gives additional backyard space to do whatever they want with their backyard, including pools. In particular, I'd like to note that one of the unique aspects of the court home product we have here is that they have extended backyards that are large enough to fit a private pool in the backyard of a court home. So any other questions on that, I'm certainly happy to answer, or anything else. Again, very thankful for working with staff throughout this process, and looking forward to building. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant on this side, on the left side of the aisle? No? No questions. Thank you very much. Do we have any speaker cards? We do not have speaker cards. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak? It has to be on this item. Okay. If you want to speak on something else, there's that time at the beginning when you can do that. Very good. I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Can we move on both items at once, or do I have to move on them separately? Is that Robert's rules or the Queen's rules, or somebody made that up? Okay. Then I will accept the motion on the first one, item number 4.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 4.
Second.
It has been properly moved. Is there any discussion on this item? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Do I need to close and open the public hearing officially? No, we can move on, and I can accept a motion on item number 5. So if anyone would.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 5, preliminary plat for Citrus Park.
Second.
It has been properly moved. Is there any discussion on this item? Yes, sir.
Does that, Mr. Chairman, point of order, does that include subject to the stipulations and so forth?
Subject to the stipulations, of course.
Subject to the stipulations. Your second still holds? Okay. Very good. Now, is there any discussion on this item? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much. Do I get to? I'm just going to do it anyway. And now we come to my favorite part, staff communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of updates for you. If you remember in January, we gave an update on sort of activity from the calendar year of 2020, which many of us are trying to put in our rearview mirror for a myriad of reasons, but from a development and then construction activity perspective, it was quite a robust year for the city. At that meeting, Commission Member Maloney had asked if we had any idea about what multifamily occupancy was. And although we individually as a city and a department don't track that because we don't have the ability to do so, because these are all private, lease agreements and things of that nature, we did do a little bit of research through some partner organizations, and we had a very small sample size. So let me tell you, we didn't check it, do anything with all of the multifamily projects in the city, but we had a very small sample size. However, what that indicated is it was about 85 to 90% occupied. So that is telling us, obviously, that the job growth and good year that we're experiencing and so forth is leading to a diversity of housing demand, which is one of the reasons that we're obviously seeing additional multifamily projects come forward to the commission and to the council. So I just wanted to kind of close the loop on that. You had asked that question.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
We did
I'm amazed.
Yep. Again, it was a small sample size, so there is probably a reasonable amount of error in that, but that's what we were able to determine.
10% vacancy? Is that what you found?
10 to 15%.
15?
Mm-hmm.
think I remember back in my multifamily days that 5% was kind of the average across the country. So that's a little bit high.
A couple of other cases. Oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, just a super brief history since the question came up tonight about West Goodyear. As Steve illustrated, it's essentially from Cotton to Perryville. Perryville is our westernmost city limit line. And then generally, as Steve indicated, from MC 85 or the Agua-Fria River, either however you want to define that, up to about I-10. So that's just kind of the general area. It isn't a formal designation. There's no legal description or anything of that nature for our city attorney's office. I didn't want them to break out in a rash with this. But, nevertheless, there was the sort of history of that is that there's, I believe, 16 different projects, and 2 of which you saw tonight have a long history in the city that started before the Great Recession started in the early 2000s, and cooperated on agreements to run infrastructure and things of that nature. So there's a myriad of different types of development agreements for infrastructure payments, reimbursements, all kinds of credits, there's a lot of complexity associated with this. And so obviously they were all teed up, ready to move forward. Great Recession came, brakes hit. Obviously now things are progressing much past where we were back in those days, and we're delighted to see all these move forward. So there's a sort of a loose association of 16 different projects out there that have all cooperated with each other to various degrees to get infrastructure installed to support projects. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context of the history of West Goodyear. And Katie probably knows a heck of a lot more about it than I do, but in my 6 years here, we've been working on West Goodyear. So
is that innovation hub going to kind of be that commercial area going to be kind of the most western part of that, kind of West Goodyear, kind of the frame commercially?
The innovation center there on that Trotter Track property, yeah, it's sort of at the northernmost edge of it. Yeah, okay. Correct. So just a report out of some of the cases that you all have considered recently. If you remember, there was the Sombreros use permit, which is shown in Hudson Commons, just south of Culver's. Council considered that at the January 25th meeting and approved it. There was a couple of plats for Australia, 929 and 11I1. Those were likewise approved by council. Council also approved the rec campus for the digital signage. So that was, that's moving forward. The rec campus, as you can see by driving up and down Australia Parkway, is well under construction and on schedule to open, I think, May or very early summer. A couple other projects that were final plats, which do not come to you, but just in case you might recognize the names. We had the Curve at Australia Commons, which was a single-family rental community, but it was on individual lots, sort of. It's in Australia Commons at the corner of Van Buren and Australia Parkway, that northeast corner, in that area there, kind of behind Aldi, where Aldi is now. So that final plat has been approved. We also had the final plat for Civic Square, was approved by council on Monday night, so exciting to see that move forward. Just a whole lot of work by many people throughout the city in order to get that over the finish line. And you probably see some construction fencing gone up or partially up around the property. So that's exciting. So that'll be breaking ground soon. And then last but not least, Katie and I did a presentation to council about a project called Australia Highlands and annexing into the city limits. Sort of the annexation process is such that we deal with council on the forefront, and council makes the decisions on what properties get annexed into the city limits or not. But ultimately, there will be a zoning case that will come forward to the commission associated with this as well. This property is located south of Australia, west of Rainbow Valley Road, and is approximately, I forgot how large it was, Katie. Can't remember either. Might be 1,000 acres or so. I can't remember exactly. But it's a large project that is desirous to come into the city limits. So we're beginning to work on that from an annexation process and procedure, and you will likewise see a zoning case come forward on that at some time in the relatively near future. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next meeting will take place on March 6th at 6 p.m. in this very room. Until then, we are adjourned.